What's up, horror fam? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's doing well. So for today's daily episode, we have an update on Trash's Revenge. Now, some of you, I'd imagine you've heard about this. It's a response, I would say. At least that's how I'm going to phrase it. It's the response to the Return of the Living Dead film, sequel, reboot, whatever you want to call it. That's going to be coming out. So Lena Quigley has been doing her own fan-funded campaign for Trash's Revenge because her, along with many others, are not taking part in this reboot, this remake, this sequel. Again, whatever you want to call it. I know many people are calling it many different things. So we have an update on what's going on with Trash's Revenge, and we also have an update for Robert Eggers' next project. It's hard to believe, I don't want to say it's hard to believe. Many of these directors, they already have a project lined up once they've completed something. We all know Robert Eggers just released his version of Nosferatu on Christmas, which was just about a month ago on December 25th, 2024. And that film has already hit digital, has already hit POD. It just got released 2 days ago. Not just with the original film that we saw in theaters, but we also got an extended cut of the film, which I will be checking out this weekend. I've already purchased the digital copy. I couldn't wait for the physical copy, which, side note, I will be buying. So yes, I will be double dipping, but I did not want to have to wait until the physical copy to come out before being able to watch, the original theatrical version again, but I also wanted to check out the extended cut just to see what differences there are. So we have some updates on what his next project is going to be. So let's jump into the details of these two updates for today's episode. So as I mentioned, we have an update. Trash's Revenge will use CGI to resurrect 2 Return of the Living Dead actors. Now, I don't know about you. I'm a little in between on things like this. We saw, side note, outside the horror genre, we saw this happen within Star Wars. If you didn't know, they've done this before with one of the key actors from the original trilogy, and there was some back and forth. There was a split of, I think, the fan base to say, hey, that's okay to do as long as you have the estate's permission and blessing to do so, and others are saying, that's not the right thing to do. That individual has passed. They're no longer with us, and out of respect, let's not use CGI, AI, whatever, to resurrect them and put them into a film, because again, it's just out of respect, right? But it looks like Trash's Revenge will be doing it for 2 of the actors. So let's get into the details of this. So the star of the original horror comedy classic The Return of the Living Dead, Scream Queen Lena Quigley, is carving her own path to a franchise resurrection with the upcoming Trash's Revenge, a brand new meta project that's now funding through Sinbacker. Quigley, who played Trash in Dan O'Bannon's classic horror comedy, is reuniting with several other stars and crew members from The Return of the Living Dead on Trash's Revenge, announcing this week that the film's cast will also include Beverly Randolph, Thom Matthews, Miguel Nunez, and John Philbin, as well as 2 Return of the Living Dead stars who are no longer with us. According to Quigley's latest update on the Trash's Revenge project, late actors James Karen and Don Calfa will be brought back to the screen with the magic of CGI. James Karen, who played Frank in The Return of the Living Dead and also returned to the film's first sequel, passed away in 2018, while Don Calfa played Ernie in the film and passed away in 2016. It's hard to imagine a low-budget, crowd-funded project such as this having the means to effectively bring actors back to the screen via digital resurrection, as even major studio projects like last year's Alien Romulus have had trouble on that front. So if you didn't know, so let's pause there for a second. So if you didn't know, Alien Romulus tried to resurrect an original cast member from the original film, and that didn't go over well in the theatrical version. That has since attempted to be resolved in the physical and digital releases. They went back, and the director went back, told the studio, hey, we need to make this right, we need to fix this, this isn't jiving right. So they did attempt to go back between the time the film ended its theatrical run up until digital and physical release to fix that. I've seen screenshots of it. It does look a little bit better, but overall it just still doesn't look good. It doesn't look right. which is why I'm not a big proponent of doing this. Now, if you have unused footage of, from those original films that you can somehow bring into your film in today's environment, I would say do that, right? Rather than trying to recreate it via CGI. There's also the question of whether or not it should even be done in the first place, which has become a hot button issue in Hollywood in recent years. Stay tuned for more on this developing story as we learn more about it. So the rest of the article just really goes on to talk about things we've already covered as far as the plot, some additional quotes, and that's pretty much it. We have, and these are the two actors that they're referring to that they're going to be bringing back via CGI or with the help of CGI. Again, I'm not a big proponent of this. I don't think this should be done. As I just mentioned, if you have unused footage from the original film that you can use and you can get permission to use, I say, go for it if it makes sense as part of the story. Now, in this case, since this Trash's Revenge is being done, again, through crowdfunding and other means, it's not really being done officially by the studio. I would imagine they would have a hard time trying to get permission from the studio to use unused footage from that original film, which is why they're going the CGI route to include these two actors. But again, not for me. I don't necessarily agree with it. So it will be interesting to see if they can do it justice and do it right for this film. All right, so moving on to our next topic. As I mentioned, Werewolf. Robert Eggers directing a 13th century werewolf movie for Christmas 2026. So he's not wasting any time. Nosferatu is done, over with. It's out. You can go see it. I know it's still playing in some theaters. I think it's still playing in limited showings in my area, like 1 or 2 showings a day now. So they've pretty much are done with its theatrical run, because again, you can buy it on POD or rent it via POD. So I imagine it's going to probably end up being pulled completely out of theaters by the end of January. So if it's Christmas, it must be Robert Eggers. Fresh off directing Nosferatu for Focus Features release on Christmas Day, THR reports that Eggers is re-teaming with Focus on Werewolf, a 13th century werewolf horror movie that Eggers co-wrote and will be directing. Focus Features has already dated Werewolf for theatrical release on Christmas Day 2026. The Hollywood Reporter details, quote, Eggers wrote Werewolf with Cylon, who co-wrote heady Viking saga The Northmen with the filmmaker. While details are scarce, sources say the story is set in the 13th century England. The script also features dialogue that was true to the time period and has translations and annotations for those uninitiated in Old English. Initially, Eggers was planning on shooting the feature in black and white, but is no longer the case. THR's exclusive report also notes, suffice to say that considering the setting and the dialect, Eggers is promising another deep dive into a muddy, costumed, and violent time period consistent with his oeuvre, which has earned him a loyal following. So I am all for this. I've mentioned before, as far as like the horror genre goes, just in films in general, I love time period piece films. And this is why I do enjoy some of the films, at least most of the films Robert Eggers has put out, because they are time period pieces and they also fall within a genre that I absolutely love. So the fact that he, off the back of doing Nosferatu, which horror film, but also time period piece, he's staying within the genre. He's going to do a werewolf film, 13th century England. Count me in. I'm already hooked. I'm already in for this. I can't wait to see a teaser trailer for this. I can't wait to see a full trailer, even the first set images of what this film will look like. I think he's going to do absolutely great with this film and with this story, even with the content, right? We've seen some recent werewolf films. There was a recent werewolf film that came out that had a lot of hype behind it, and it seemed to get, once it hit theaters, it was just not good. And I think within 2 or 3 weeks, it had already hit digital. I can't remember exactly all the details about it, but I do recall the film is about the fact that once this full moon happens, people start to turn to werewolves, and they're trying to, see if they can either reverse that effect. It was really one of those popcorn action flicks, right? While going on the back of a horror film about werewolves. This is the more type of werewolf film I'm interested in, where it's grounded into that 13th century time period piece. It's not modern day. The fact that he's going to be looking at dialect and how people talked and everything of that nature. It looks like he's going to be putting a lot of effort into this. So again, I'm all for it. Chris Columbus, who produced Nosferatu, is on board to produce Werewolf. That's great. While Universal hasn't had much success with their recent attempts to bring classic monsters back to life for today's audiences, with this year's Wolfman off to a slow start at the box office, their focus features branch is looking to pick up some of that slack. Nosferatu has outgrossed recent Universal monster films, including The Invisible Man, Rainfield, The Last Voyage of the Dementor, Abigail, and the aforementioned Wolfman. So staying in the Robert Eggers business and allowing him to make his own prestige monster movies is a wise choice. I agree. Wolfman was a bit of a disappointment. There was a lot of hype for that film. It looked great. The teasers, the trailers kept you wanting to know what was going to happen, wanting to see more, and it just didn't land. And I agree, Universal's Monsters universe has not been successful, has not hit as well as they thought they would. And maybe it's just the fact that they're just trying to bring back these classics that just aren't, as it mentions, aren't resonating with the current audience. And I just think it's just not being done right. This picture is just from an older film called Bad Moon that was done in 1996. So not to do with any of the films that we just recently talked about. I think Robert Eggers is a great choice if you're going to try to get some of these classic monster films or stories, off the ground, get the audiences engaged. I think he's the right person to do it. He has that touch. Nosferatu was a great film in my opinion. I know it wasn't for everybody, and many people who did enjoy it did state that they didn't feel it had much rewatch value to them. And to each his own. For me, I would definitely rewatch it again. I'm going to rewatch it again, the theatrical version, and then I'm going to watch the extended cut. But I feel for me, it does have rewatch value. It's just one of those films that I just happen to enjoy. So again, to each his own. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for today's daily episode. I just want to say a quick thank you to all the existing and new subscribers to the channel. It is greatly appreciated, so I thank you very much for all the support. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think about the latest on Trash's Revenge. Do you agree with bringing actors back via CGI who have, passed? They're no longer with us. Do you agree with that take? Do you not agree with that take? Does it even really matter to you? And what do you think about Robert Eggers' next project, taking on Werewolf in 13th century England, staying true to that time period? Again, let us know down in the comment section. And if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It does help us out a lot. Otherwise, we will see you at the next one. Peace.